actually glad that the fine folks over at The Ringer and FanDuel TV and Spotify picked this particular weekend for a couple of the guys to be out because, we've had some crummy Sundays. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I thought last week the matchups at 1 o'clock were incredibly uninspiring. Yes, House, thumbs down. This week, you got some epic games on the slate. We'll get to the Texans and the Packers, which to me is a fantastic game. But I'm starting with this one, Raheem. It's a Super Bowl rematch. In fact, the last time the Chiefs and the Niners took battle, we were together in Las Vegas. We were at a Super Bowl party. I had my Niners future. I had a couple more on the Niners to go and win the game. And you ended up getting a live wager on the Chiefs. We all know what happened. Jackpot, Viva Las Vegas, Travis Kelce. And I'm crying. You were celebrating. And the Chiefs, once again, win the Super Bowl and beat the Niners. Now, they've beaten the Niners quite a bit. They beat them in 2 Super Bowls. They beat them when they played heads up a couple of years ago. Yet, the odds makers have decided, Raheem, to give us Kansas City plus 1.5 against San Francisco. Now, I probably have no credence to go and do what I'm about to do because you guys could probably smack me across the head and say, are you this dumb? Are you honestly going to do this again? Yes, I am taking the San Francisco 49ers. I am not messing with the points. I am taking them on the money line. It's minus 115, minus 120, not screwing around there. I don't like where Kansas City is at from a health standpoint. I don't like that they don't have Pacheco. I don't like that they don't have Rashee Rice. They have kind of been fooling around with these games. If we're being real, all these games are close. All these games are tight. They're not going undefeated. They're going to lose a game or two here. And Raheem, I know what the stat is going to be with Mahomes. I know you reference it every single time we do it. When he is a favorite of small number or a dog of a small number, he usually wins all the time. I know that. I'm aware of that. That said, I think revenge, I think the Niners being in a better health spot than Kansas City is my logic here. I'm on the Niners, and I expect you guys to fade accordingly.
I'm not necessarily fading this, but in the words of Jalen Rose, not going to be able to do it. I'm not doing it. Like I say it all the time, and you referenced the stat, Mahomes, 13, 6, and 1, 68% when the spread is between 3 and 3. And then there's Andy Reid off of a bye, 24 and 15 against the spread in his career when he has at least 12 days to prepare for a game, and 32 and 7 outright in those games. You're talking about Reid and Mahomes. That combination is 12 and 2 straight up with the extra week off. My biggest thing is this. Why am I trying to, reinvent the wheel? Why am I trying to look like a genius by fading Mahomes and Andy Reid in this spot? Now, you could very well be right, but more often than not, Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to find a way to win that game. So I just would rather stay off the game than, fade them in this spot. And when I look at the San Francisco 49ers, they don't look like the same team that we've seen throughout the Kyle Shanahan era. They really struggle in the red zone. You watching that game against Seattle on Thursday Night Football, and they can't score touchdowns. Like, Seattle was in that game for large parts of the game, and, Seattle was playing their third game in like 11 days, and they were banged up. So if Seattle was in that game, we know the Chiefs will be in the game coming off of a bye. So to me, this is Chiefs or pass. Right now, I'm going to pass.
Yeah, I'm sorry, JJ. I got to be with Dream on this one.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I fully expected this. Like, I'm well aware of the history I'm working against here. I guess really what it comes down to, House, for you at least, are you going to be on Kansas City Sunday, or are you not going near this game? Because the sense I got from Raheem is doesn't love the spot for Kansas City. Do you?
I mean, how can you love it? It's the second best team in the NFL. I mean, 1A, 1B here. I don't think that you could say I have an absolute conviction. The two observations I'll make. In the first place, I think that this number is going to move. I wouldn't be surprised if when people wake up Sunday morning, they're like, the Chiefs? Yeah, I want the Chiefs, of course. And that gets that to be like a pick 'em, or maybe even tiny bit of Chiefs favored. But if you're going to play the money line, I would say just wait, JJ, because I do think that I'm not positive this number's going to 100% stick with San Francisco favored in this manner. But the other aspect of it is San Francisco has its own injuries. They're injured up the middle of that defense. Fred Warner's playing, but is he 100%? I don't know. Hufanga is out. He was a huge impact player, the safety for San Francisco, and their defense really suffered down the stretch last year when he went out. And so I'm a little concerned about that. And there's reports, you got to pay attention and see when you wake up on Sunday whether Jordan Mason's going to play. Because if he's not, they're down to their third string running back. Maybe it won't matter because none of us heard of Jordan Mason until, he showed up and ran for 150 yards. You know what I mean?
Honestly, a running back doesn't matter with any of the Kyle Shanahan system.
Right.
I mean,
Alfred Morris, baby. Yeah, Alfred Morris.
I mean, they're masters at making another hole, like Jay-Z said. But it's it's so funny because interestingly enough, and, you're watching that game against Seattle and Jordan Mason goes off, and then the backup comes in and rushes for 99 yards on 10 carries. So, do running backs really matter? And I do think they matter to a certain extent. I think the 49ers are obviously missing Christian McCaffrey in the red zone. But, I want to stay away from this game. And, just from a math perspective, I look at this from, you're probably going to have sharps on both sides of this game. You're going to have pros on both sides of this game. But I'm laying, when you're betting at the sportsbook, you have to lay minus 110. The bookmakers are getting plus 110 on this. So they're going to get the best of us on a game where you probably have the better team in San Francisco going up against the better quarterback. Why do I want to bet that? I'm staying away.
Yeah, I get it. That said, I have a hunch here, guys. I will be on San Francisco, and I'll probably regret it around 4 o'clock on the West Coast.
I'll be rooting
for you. You guys can all mock me. I appreciate that.
I'm fine with
because rooting against Kansas City is now no fun anymore. I'm sorry. It's just no fun. So I'm on San Francisco in this game, and I expect all the hate to come my way. Raheem, when we do our little public split on Sunday at high noon on the East Coast, do you think Kansas City is going to be one of the public plays of the week? I have to assume yes, right?
Yeah, I'm going to assume yes. I think a lot of the public, they're not going to want to fade Mahomes.
That's what I mean. I feel like they're going to see Mahomes either getting points. They're going to see Mahomes, in a low spread situation. They're going to be all over that. So something to consider. All right, House, another game that is marquee that I actually have a very strong lean on as well. But I'm going to go last on this one. The Houston Texans, who took care of business against the Patriots. C.J. Stroud is playing great. They got Joe Mixon back. They lose Nico Collins. So they're kind of finding ways to win. Nothing wrong with that. 2.5-point dogs against Jordan Love and the explosive Green Bay Packers. The incredibly well-coached Green Bay Packers. I have a strong lean in this game, but I'm going to start with you. You playing it, you passing, and if you're not going to play it, who do you lean with?
Well, I keep expressing skepticism about this Green Bay Packers team, and they keep shoving it right in my face because the defense keeps producing turnovers at a rate that, frankly, is not sustainable, but they are inside the top 10 on an EPA basis on both sides of the ball. The defense portion of that is because of all the turnovers that they're producing. But you sort of reference it. LaFleur, just in general, 28-16 against the spread at home. Jordan Love at home, covered 6 of his last 8. Packers have covered 7 of 11 at home since the beginning of 2023. And, you're looking at the other side of the ball with the Texans. This will be the game where we really see the impact on that offense not having Nico Collins. The Houston offense continues to be somewhat sluggish, but we have a sample size issue with this Houston Texans offense because when they have a healthy Joe Mixon, they start cooking. And we saw it against New England. We saw it the first game of the season. We saw it for the portion of the game against the Bears that Joe Mixon was healthy. And we saw it just now against New England. They are a radically different offense when Joe Mixon is part of the threat. And I'm kind of not feeling strongly about fading Houston because C.J. Stroud just keeps getting it done. Now, there are splits that show that C.J. Stroud is radically different on the road, radically different outdoors. But Houston continues to impress me. So I think I might stay away from this game.
This game's interesting because I kind of share similar thoughts to House. I do think Houston is a little bit undervalued, but I think the Packers are the better team. And if you're laying 2.5 at home with the Packers, and I think the Packers, like, we're in an era where home field advantage doesn't matter as much. I think the Packers still have one of the best home field advantages in the NFL at this point in time. So I have to price that in. I also have to look at the fact that offensively, the Packers are better through EPA per play. I think the Packers defense has been a lot better than I thought it would be. They're actually 7th in EPA per play. They actually have a better defense per EPA per play than the Texans. So I think this number might be a little bit short.
I agree with you, Raheem. I'm on Green Bay in this game. I think it's a great spot for the Packers. The defense is better than people think. Jordan Love has come back and has hit the ground running, and he's thrown the ball all over the place to all four of those wide receivers that they have. And I look at Houston's record, despite Stroud's brilliance, and you watch a bunch of these games, and it feels like could have lost to Jacksonville. Could have lost early in the year to Chicago. Played around in that game in week 2. Like, there are a lot of these games with Houston where I'm like, they as good as their 5-1 record.
How about this? The Houston Texans are 5-1 with a +8 point differential. So they're well overperforming that Pythagorean expectation. Meanwhile, the Packers are 4-2 with a +41 point differential, and they had a backup quarterback for 2 games. So the Packers, I mean, if you look at my model makes them massive favorites. Actually, as I'm talking about this more and more, I'm gonna find myself on the Packers because
there you go. Bet it. I already did. Get on it, baby.
I was gonna it was just gonna be like a small, lean or a small play, but I think this might be a big play because I think the Packers are better all around the board, and I think Jordan Love actually might be better than C.J. Stroud.
Whoa!
Yeah, let's make it a family play.
I didn't think you were gonna go there, Raheem. Wow.
He can go there. I don't think he's wrong. He's got better weapons, that's for sure, and his accuracy, especially at home, is impeccable. The other thing about this that now you guys are talking me into it for the Packers, a second straight road game for Houston. So I had my how's Houston going to handle it on the road outdoors against New England against the rookie quarterback. They handled it fine, but going to Lambeau's a whole nother deal and another outdoor game. All right, it's a family play.
It's a family play. Let's go.
I love that we talked ourselves into it across the board, and I love that we are aligned on this one. Love the Packers laying 2.5. Detroit and Minnesota. Raheem, I feel like regression is coming for the Vikings. The problem I have with this game is now the loss of Aiden Hutchinson and how the Lion defense handles the loss of Aiden Hutchinson. I got to imagine Detroit, after what they did to the Cowboys with everybody watching them on Sunday in that late afternoon window, I don't have a strong lean on this game. It's kind of a stay away for me. I almost feel like there's going to be so much public money all over the Lions.
I don't know about that. I'm going to be honest with you. Because I think, obviously the Minnesota Vikings are, one of the 2 undefeated teams right now. So a lot of people are going to want to back the Vikings.
You think so? Even with their suspect London performance and Sam Darnold, I feel like
they still brought the cash in.
No, I get it. There are a lot of preconceived notions, though, regarding the Vikings and listen, Detroit was a top 5 favorite to go and win the Super Bowl, and now they're starting to flex on teams. I kind of feel like the narrative this week is going to be people going to the window and betting the Lions.
Well, I think you're right because this line moved today. I mean, as we're taping it, when I sat down and started my research in the notes, this line was 2.5. It's down to 1.5 right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Minnesota's still favored 1.5 at home. Hard game for me to handicap aside because I want to see Detroit, how they try and account for the Aiden Hutchinson loss. It's a super significant loss, obviously. The play for me is the over. It's sitting right now, I think, at 49.5. And one thing that I really like about the way this thing might play out, no quarterback in the NFL has been better against the blitz than Jared Goff.
Wow.
Think about that for a minute.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
His success rate and his depth of target has been excellent against the blitz. So I do think that these 2 innovative, offensive-minded teams are going to be able to put up points on each other, especially Detroit, weakness in the secondary that Dallas could not take advantage of. But I think Minnesota, it looks like TJ Hawkinson is going to play. So let Minnesota, with all its weapons, be out there against this sort of vulnerable Detroit secondary. And if the pass rush for Detroit isn't getting home, I think we're going to see points, because I'm not worried about Detroit with its weapons against this Vikings defense. The Vikings defense has been incredible, but this is a divisional matchup. I do think we're going to see some points this weekend, fellas.
So to House's point, Goff is completing 70% of his passes on 12.1 yards per attempt. So he knows how to handle this Flores defense. And if you look back, the last time the Vikings beat the Lions was week 2 of 2022. So the Lions have actually dominated this Vikings team over the last 2 seasons. So that's a concern for me. I would be looking towards the Lions. And, a lot of people are going to talk about the loss of Aiden Hutchinson. I do think that's a big deal, particularly when the Lions get into a game state where the other team is chasing points. That's when it's going to hurt the most. But I look at this Vikings team, and if you watch their performance in London, when Aaron Jones got hurt, that game changed everything. Like, that changed everything about the game. So the offense isn't the same without Aaron Jones. And even though he practiced on Monday, he's still week to week. And, House mentioned that TJ Hawkinson might play, but they haven't made a definitive decision on that. They actually said he might not play. So I think we need to be watching the injury report for those two. And that's probably a big part of why that line moved, because if those two guys are out and this is, a battle back and forth, I would rather have the Lions offense than the Vikings offense. Now, obviously the Vikings defense is better, but if Goff knows how to handle that Vikings defense, and look, Aaron Rodgers had one of his best games of the season against this Vikings team, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't been good. So what is Jared Goff in this Lions offense going to do? I think I would lay it with the Lions, even though it seems square.